Finland, like its Nordic neighbors Sweden and Norway, is actively preparing for a potential conflict with Russia. The country has started distributing pamphlets to all citizens, advising them on what actions to take in the event of war. This move is clearly a response to Russia's recent invasion of Ukraine and the ongoing proxy war between Russia and NATO. The situation in Scandinavia has become increasingly tense since Finland and Sweden joined NATO in 2023, turning the region into one of the most direct points of confrontation between NATO and Russia. Among the Nordic nations, Finland has perhaps the most strained relationship with Russia due to their shared border, which extends 830 miles, 1,340 kilometers. Finland's geographical proximity places it near some of Russia's most critical military bases and cities, making it a significant strategic threat to Moscow. However, the reverse is also true. Russia, being a much larger nation, poses a serious danger to Finland's national security. Historically, conflicts between the two nations have led to severe consequences for both sides, which is why Finland is taking no risks this time and is actively preparing for the worst-case scenario. To understand why Finland is reinforcing its defenses and warning its citizens, it is essential to examine the historical context of its relationship with Russia. The two nations have engaged in multiple conflicts over the centuries, especially during the period when Finland was under Swedish rule. Finland was not an independent country at the time but was part of the Swedish Empire, which had controlled it for over 6 centuries. Swedish and Russian forces clashed numerous times between the 12th and 18th centuries as both sought dominance over the Baltic Sea, a crucial trade route. Sweden and Russia were natural adversaries, as Sweden's territorial expansion was seen as a direct threat by Russia. The Swedish Empire at its peak controlled parts of present-day Finland, Norway, northern Germany, the Baltic states, and Karelia, now part of Russia. The turning point came in the early 18th century when Russia decisively defeated Sweden in the Great Northern War, stripping it of several key territories and solidifying its position as the dominant power in Northern Europe. Finland, however, remained under Swedish control until the early 19th century. In the 1740s, Sweden was forced to cede parts of eastern Finland to Russia following another military defeat. Further conflicts followed, but the most significant shift occurred during the Finnish War of 1808–1809. In this war, Russia emerged victorious and annexed the entirety of Finland, turning it into the Grand Duchy of Finland within the Russian Empire. Initially, Finland enjoyed a degree of autonomy, maintaining its legislative assembly and developing a unique national identity within the empire. The Russians viewed Finland primarily as a strategic buffer zone and thus refrained from heavy interference in its internal affairs. However, as the Russian Empire began to decline in the late 19th century, the situation in Finland worsened. Under Tsar Nicholas II, Russia embarked on a policy of Russification, seeking to integrate Finland more directly into the empire. Russian was imposed as the administrative language, schools were required to teach in Russian, and Finland's political autonomy was drastically reduced. The Russian government also implemented economic changes, including the introduction of the ruble as Finland's currency. By 1901, Finland's military was abolished, and the Russian authorities intensified censorship and persecution of Finnish nationalists. This period of oppression fueled resentment among Finns, but it was the collapse of the Russian Empire during World War I that provided Finland with an opportunity to break free. The Russian Revolution of 1917 led to widespread turmoil, and in 1918, Finland erupted into civil war between communist factions, supported by Soviet Russia, and anti-communist forces, backed by Germany. The anti-communist side emerged victorious, securing Finland's full independence for the first time in its history. Finland sought to maintain neutrality and avoid entanglement in international conflicts, but the geopolitical situation in Europe deteriorated rapidly in the late 1930s. As Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union invaded Poland, triggering World War II, the Soviets turned their attention to Finland. Seeking to protect Leningrad, modern-day St. Petersburg, which was dangerously close to the Finnish border, the Soviet Union attempted to negotiate a territorial exchange. Finland refused, leading to the outbreak of the Winter War in 1939. Despite being vastly outnumbered and outgunned, Finland's military put up fierce resistance. Finnish forces utilized guerrilla tactics, leveraging their superior knowledge of the harsh winter environment and the country's rugged terrain. Soviet troops, ill-prepared for extreme cold, suffered massive casualties. Finnish snipers, including the legendary Simo Häyhä, inflicted heavy losses, with Häyhä alone credited with over 500 kills. The Soviets lost an estimated 170,000 soldiers, while Finland suffered around 26,000 casualties. Though Finland was ultimately forced to cede territory, it retained its sovereignty. In 1941, when Germany launched Operation Barbarossa against the Soviet Union, Finland saw an opportunity to regain lost territory and joined the Axis powers in what became known as the Continuation War. Finnish and German forces advanced, laying siege to Leningrad for over 2 years, resulting in significant Soviet casualties. However, as the tide of the war turned, Finland was forced to sign an armistice with the Soviet Union in 1944. Finland had to pay war reparations, expel German troops, and accept a degree of Soviet influence, though it managed to avoid full occupation. After World War II, Finland adopted a policy of neutrality, seeking to maintain a delicate balance between East and West. While it refrained from joining NATO due to Soviet pressure, it developed a robust defense strategy known as the Total Defense System. This approach ensured that Finland's entire society could be mobilized in the event of war. It focused on maintaining a large reserve force, building extensive defensive positions, and ensuring self-sufficiency in essential industries. Thousands of bomb shelters were constructed, and citizens were trained in survival tactics. Even after the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union collapsed, Finland never abandoned its defensive posture. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 reinforced Finland's belief that its security could not be taken for granted. The country rapidly moved to join NATO, strengthening its military and enhancing cooperation with Western allies. Today, Finland boasts one of the most formidable defense forces in Europe relative to its population. With a population of just 5.6 million, it maintains a wartime strength of up to 1 million trained soldiers. This is achieved through mandatory military conscription, ensuring a steady supply of trained reservists. The Finnish military is well equipped with advanced artillery, tanks, and anti-tank weapons such as the NLAW and Javelin missiles, which have proven highly effective in Ukraine. Finland has also invested heavily in its air force, recently acquiring 64 F-35 fighter jets, considered among the most advanced in the world. These aircraft enhance Finland's ability to defend its airspace and conduct precision strikes. The country is also expanding its drone capabilities, developing a domestic drone manufacturing industry in cooperation with Ukraine. On the naval front, Finland is strengthening its presence in the Baltic Sea, constructing new corvettes and enhancing coastal defenses. The strategic importance of Finland within NATO has increased significantly, as it can block Russian naval movements in the Baltic and support the defense of the Baltic states. In the event of an attack, Finland would not fight alone. As a NATO member, it would receive immediate support from allies, including Sweden, Norway, and the United States. NATO's rapid response forces, consisting of hundreds of thousands of troops, would be deployed to Finland within days. Additionally, Finland's proximity to key Russian military sites, such as the Kola Peninsula and St. Petersburg, gives NATO a strategic advantage in countering Russian aggression. While the likelihood of a full-scale Russian invasion remains low, Finland is determined to be prepared. Its government and citizens prioritize national defense, and the country continues to invest heavily in military readiness. By maintaining a strong defense, Finland aims to deter any potential aggression and ensure its sovereignty for generations to come.